Well, welcome to Risk Profile. I've excited to share with our listeners our talk with Chris Johnson of Purefi Coffee. Chris and I met due to his excellent coffee roasting skills at the local farmers market, and started to get to know how an entrepreneur that really kind of embraces not just the business side of entrepreneurship through starting a coffee company, but also fully lives into the community aspect of what it's like to run a business in the context of where you live and where you work, with a higher purpose, probably, than just necessarily producing product.
Correct.
And Chris, I'm really excited to share how you think about business differently. And then we'll get into why coffee and all those kinds of things later. But, kind of first off, what do you think is so magical about coffee that really makes it the place to connect?
I don't know. I think there could be different aspects there, depending on if it's kind of like a private setting or a public setting. One thing, it doesn't change you too much to where you're not acting different as we know some other gathering, like drinking or whatnot would do. It's like this third place. I've heard it's described before, like everyone needs a third place. You have work, you have home, and then you have this third place. Sometimes that third place is in your home, but other times in a cafe or drinking somewhere else. So I think just the fact that chemically it gives you energy, right? And then, which enhances conversation, and relationship is enhanced through conversation. So I would say that kind of draws people to it, kind of the energy. And then you play the aspect of making it taste good, actually. And now you're
delicious,
hitting two
actually.
things, yeah.
Yes.
Now you're hitting two areas. Someone may need some energy and they want their palate pleased, if you want to say so. So
I think it's been really interesting because as I've grown up, coffee has gone from almost 100% a Folgers kind of commodity, and it is a commodity. You can buy it and sell it on the mercantile exchange.
Correct.
But what you do and the way you source coffee and the way you roast it is actually much different. What's special about small batch coffee, and why is it taking over the country?
I would say what's different that everyone would probably agree with in regards to small batch would be like being able to have an eye on having more control over the coffee. Also, it's more cost effective if I was to make a mistake.
Yeah.
That now we're only dealing with 25 pounds rather than 75 pounds or 162 pounds or whatever it may be. But also, I would say small batch roasting also allows you to have more touch. And like part of our vision is being able to impact more people. So having a small batch roaster allows you to do that as well. Also allows you to line up to kind of grow a little bit to where you can offer different things to your customers. But I think the main thing for us was quality to begin with, and then the physical touch, being able to have an impact. So I hope that answered.
Help us just generally understand. You first have an idea. I think I want to get good at this. You buy like a kit roaster and then go from the kit roaster to something bigger, or did you just go straight in? What was it like as you were beginning to turn this into a business concept?
It was very. It wasn't super rushed, which was great. It also wasn't heavily funded. This was a lot of trial and error. So they have a lot of cool little sites that their market are like home roasters, like Sweet Maria's, or there's a couple other places that you can get small amounts for those who like to roast at home.
Yeah.
And actually started off with a popcorn popper.
Yeah. One of the air ones.
Well, not the air one, but it's actually one where you buy a skillet.
Yeah.
You sit the skillet on the stove, on the gas stove. It heats up the skillet. Then you sit this little whirly pop.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
And you just kind of twirl it like this to keep it from staying too much conduction, which is like physical touch.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of how I began. And then we eventually, and the story begins before that. I wouldn't have made these moves if I didn't feel like there was a purpose, or I wasn't fully convinced that this is what I was supposed to do. But then I transitioned from that into making a small investment compared to the investment I've made now on like a fluid bed roaster, another air roaster. Mm-hmm. And it basically took over my living room. And I'm so thankful for my wife. And I made some cool climbing spaces for my boys.
Yeah.
And, you know, so it became pretty interesting and also pretty crazy what I was doing as we were growing and having to roast and still working full time and being there.
So you have a clear vision for what you want the business to do for you in terms of, you know, family stability, budget, income, those kinds of things. You have a very clear picture for what running a coffee shop looks like in the context of community, and you tie that into your own story, and we'll get into that in a little bit. What was the order of operations for you? Did you start with what you wanted to be externally? Did you start with, can I make money here? What were your first couple of thoughts?
That's a great question, because really, if you look at when we get to it, my passion and why I'm doing this, I probably should have chose coffee shop rather than coffee roastery. But when I came into it, what seemed more feasible financially, also personally with the family and my current situation, was the roasting side of things.
Because your boys needed something to climb on?
Yeah, because we needed to make it interesting. Yeah. Or because I didn't want them breaking glass cups. Yeah. But no, so in regards to choosing roasting rather than the coffee shop, there's just a lot less variables, and I can start on my own. A coffee shop required a little more, I would say, legwork in regards to getting started, because there's a lot more inspections to pass and different things you got to go through for a coffee shop because you're serving an end product. Yeah. So I chose the roasting side, although my goal is to end up with coffee shops as well, because that fulfills the desire and the plan of Purefi. So
just as far as like having a physical place to connect with the outside world and somewhere to come.
I can produce thousands of coffee with thousands of pounds of coffee with 2-3 employees. Yeah. But I could have 6-7 employees to operate a busy cafe. So for me, that's 6 or 7 more people that there's an opportunity for me or someone that's kind of been brought on in leadership to make some sort of impact.
So I think in business, we talk a lot about, you know, your key performance indicators, your KPIs, and it's clear when you have like a single bottom line, what, you know, cash in the door, EBITDA, whatever metric you want to use. But you're building this as a community impact type organization in addition to being a sensible business. And so your bottom lines are obviously, you know, keeping the business funding and hiring employees for what purpose? Why does the employee headcount, why do you want to maximize that?
Great question. To kind of, I'll come right back to that question, but also what I have is, it's great what you say, because I have to remind myself at times that the bottom line in regards to finance, the financials of things is not my deciding factor on if it's successful. So the reason why people is important, because making money is not my main goal. Being I guess like a deflection for people maybe headed in the wrong direction, or an injection for people that are headed in the right direction of life. That's really, and I could have went a nonprofit. And sometimes I sit back and think, why didn't I go nonprofit? But we didn't. Also because we don't want our story to make people buy coffee. We want that to encourage them to, but we want the quality to keep them. Because we're not out here trying to like pull people's heartstrings and play on their emotions. We really want to offer the best coffee, but that's not our main focus. So,
well, as a avid coffee drinker, I'm very grateful that you are making great coffee. And I think, you know, having the courage to focus on being good at something while also delivering on what might even be your primary goal is not often found. I think sometimes you kind of have like different classes. Well, you know, I think music and sports have had this, you know, kind of distinction. I think it's important that if you can and you have the capacity to be really good at something, to really choose that. So hiring people is important, and you really want to do that as a way to train or rise up some of the youth around you in particular. Is that true? And do you think coffee, even though you're not really trying to go for somebody's heartstrings, why didn't you do something else? What was it about coffee that brought you to that as a business?
Just kind of what we started off the conversation with is how coffee somehow, some way magically creates community and conversation and relationship. And it's like so easy. It's like getting in a warm pool rather than a cold pool.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to get in a warm pool than a cold pool. And so I feel like once we have coffee, we have conversation, we have relationship. Now it's an open table for me to communicate what I want to share. And kind of that's my experience, once again, to deflect or inject people. And kind of back to what you were saying, it's like the tricky thing is when you're hiring youth, they don't drink coffee, right? So when I'm telling them to drink a shot of espresso, they're like, oh, it's disgusting, because they don't appreciate it yet. So we have like this weird balance we're having to work out here. So we use like communication skills. Like this weekend, our topic today is communicating. They may not know nothing about coffee, but through the pressure of the busyness of the market or coming to work, they get to focus on communication.
Sure.
Like when I share maybe this podcast with them, and things they hear you ask me and I answer, or vice versa, may change the trajectory of a decision they're going to make. So just kind of doing life.
Yeah.
I've had people kind of ask me, do you want to come speak at the school, or you want to come speak? And I welcome those, but most importantly is it's all about relationship and getting involved. Like people don't care how much you care until they know. How's it go? People don't want to know like what you know unless they know how much you care, something like that. So I think that happens by walking alongside people. And that's what coffee allows.
Yeah. So you come to this aha point where you realize that starting a coffee roastery is, something that makes sense for not only your personal bottom line, but for the community bottom line that you're trying to serve. You start a business and you get your, not only, start with the skillet, and then you move to the little fluidized roaster, and then you order a larger machine. And now I understand you've just upgraded that machine to the same size batch, but maybe a more advanced, more technically. Yeah. Is it just the process of growth that's really driving you forward? What is really causing you to continue to double down on who you are instead of, I guess, being complacent?
One of the things I pride myself in is being completely transparent. Yeah. And sometimes I feel like I'm in uncharted water because of the growth that we're experiencing. So really, the next request sometimes is what's pulling me into the next place of growth. Yeah. Or unfortunately, maybe just being extremely tired and hearing from my wife, like, you may want to consider hiring someone else, And so I'm not the quickest to move towards growth. I also, just to be honest, don't feel the best equipped for what's in front of me, but I'm excited about it, the growth that's happening. But it's more so like a pull and a tug. Yeah.
It's how it felt for me too. In my business, I sold my first company, and before we got to that spot, I was constantly feeling that same feeling of really being overwhelmed, really not knowing what was going to be the best. And I was fortunate to have a great team around me, including my wife, who helped me work through issues or pointed out when I was maybe not being consistent with my own goals or internal expectations as far as the family goes. Yeah. And it building something that is good and is growing it does have a pull. It almost is kind of magnetic in the way that it attracts you towards, the next step. It's not, I think maybe that's a blessing. Maybe you don't have to have it all figured out when you get started, but if you surround yourself around other entrepreneurs in any business really that are interested to know what you're doing and how you're working, I think, good things happen. Do you think Houston contributed to that growth and journey for you, or do you feel like you're kind of on your own in terms of the business goes?
What do you mean? Like
in terms of your own mentor, the people that give you advice and help you kind of sift through it?
That's funny. I was thinking about that question before I came in here. There have been some people in the industry in Houston that have kind of just cold shoulder when I tried to call or reach out for advice earlier in the journey. But there's also people who are in the city that have been of help. They definitely, I don't know, this idea of competition is very dangerous. In my belief system, when I'm operating how I want to operate in my mind, I don't believe in competition. I don't. I believe competition, if you want to call it that, is healthy because it keeps quality where it should be. And some people think that if you're too close to me, this is a little too much competition. But I've had a couple people that have been great. A guy named Brent out of Nacogdoches who has Camino Real Coffee Roasters and Java Jacks in Nacogdoches. He's been awesome. Huge thanks to him. And also Specialty Coffee has created an industry where if you're willing to invest, then you can find mentor in there. I was actually listening to Dale's podcast with Megan, and it was real good. Some of the things I was saying, just having that coach, that person that comes in, even those who are coaching or I can't remember the name she wasn't quite gelling with, but even those people need it.
So you have this great passion to start a business, again, tying it back to the community. What from your life story really highlighted this as what you needed to do?
So coffee, like I've never worked in a coffee shop. I've never worked at a coffee roastery. I've never dealt with coffee. I've drank it a little bit earlier in my life, but I have no history in coffee. I actually came into coffee kind of the backside, which what we were kind of talking about. I was looking for something that I could do with my life that would bring something good to the world rather than bad, because I had gone on a long journey of just rebellion and making horrible decisions, and I became a person that you didn't want to be around. I wasn't enjoyable. I burned every bridge. It didn't matter if it was family, friends, stranger. My goal was to get what I wanted. So if I was talking to you, it's because I wanted to get something. And so, and finally I had this situation happen where I went to adult timeout. In that place, I just began to cry out to God. So I have no skills. I've waited tables, sold drugs, done drugs, committed crimes. I have no skills. What can I do? And just coffee kind of popped up. And like we were talking about earlier, when I thought about coffee being the perfect breeding ground for relationship and community, this is a perfect platform for me in a genuine way, walking next to someone to share kind of my experience, hoping that it would deter them. I thought, okay, then coffee is what it is. And I started just kind of brainstorming and thinking, how do I do it? What do I want to do? All the fun things. What's the name? Not the real tough stuff until you get into it. But I just started kind of dreaming about that and envisioning that. So
taking that passion, that story, connecting it with what you're doing, how does that change the way you handle adversity? And with things like the storm, or maybe is there another story you want to highlight that really speaks to what that does for you as an entrepreneur?
Wait, can you use the question again?
Yeah, sure. So you have a big passion internally for why you wanted to become an entrepreneur, why you wanted to start a business, and all businesses run into problems. And how does that affect how you handle those problems? Given your background.
I would say my experience in addiction, dealing with that, my experience in sports, being a quarterback, kind of being used to kind of leading, being an athlete. I've experienced a lot of, I guess, struggles or setbacks coming from a broken home. I'm kind of used to it, used to kind of like the walls that get in the way along the way. But I also have to remember that, once again, the reason why I'm doing this is so that they can see, those that are around me can see that they could do it too. Not exactly what it is, but you don't have to choose what I chose. And so I think that's the biggest factor. And also, of course, my wife and my boys. It's not about me. So I can't let what's in front of me kind of keep me back, because it's not just me.
So this podcast, we try to speak directly to the hopes and dreams of the entrepreneur and really encourage them to think through their own life and the situations that they're in. And some people deal with this ambiguity, uncertainty a certain way. What do you think from your experience going back through, if you were to say, okay, let's do this again, what would what would you want to tell the earlier version of yourself?
Do a little bit more research. Do a little bit more research for sure.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah. But at the same time, if I would have done more research, I may have been timid to make the transition.
So just enough ignorance to get started. That's what
exactly,
you need.
Yeah. Just enough information to have some sort of promise without the information that would bring reality of kind of,
Yeah.
of what it is. And I was doing like crazy things, like working 60 hours a week in construction, and then putting about 20 to 30 hours in of roasting and delivering as well. So it's kind of crazy.
That's a lot of hustle.
I would say that it goes deeper to me than just a business drive.
Yeah.
To me, it's like a divine calling.
Yeah.
Not that I'm supposed to be the greatest coffee roaster. I feel there's some great coffee roasters in the city, and I'm not the type to down talk anybody.
Sure.
But I just believe that's where I'm supposed to be. Me and my wife got new vehicles.
Yeah.
Not by choice, but because our two older ones decided to quit on us. And it's just little things that are cool that push me. And when we got both of our license plates in, we didn't request it, but they both had PCRs, the first 3 letters.
Yeah.
Right? And that's our initials of our coffee company. So it's pretty cool. Just little small, just encouragement, things like that.
Well, that's super exciting. So how does somebody find your coffee? Like where do they go to join this community?
So our roastery, Monday through Friday, it's in Old Town Spring, like 27359 West Hardy Road, Spring, Texas, Suite 214. We're in there Monday through Friday, 9 to 5:30. We are a roastery, so it may take a little bit of time. We don't really serve drinks, but people come in often.
Yeah.
You're more than welcome to stop by, anybody throughout the week, and you'll be able to smell beans, choose what's freshly roasted, or if you want something that's a little bit rested. So people can do that by coming through. We also have some partners in the city that sell our coffee. Some of them only sell the drinks, and some actually sell the bags. And then online is kind of where you can get the full variety without having to drive to Spring if you're not from the area.
Yeah.
But that's at pureficoffee.com. And
Purefi.
Purefi. So it's spelled a little different. Purefi coffee.com.
Uh-huh.
The normal spelling was taken. So
I'm sure.
I had to get kind of creative, but
yeah.
But yeah, I would say there. And then the 2 farmers markets, if you're locals, come and shop local in Tomball or Memorial.
Yeah.
And we have a different variety, and we also make drinks there as well. So
awesome. Well, Chris, super thankful that you've been able to make some time to come on this podcast. And I know that connecting your life story with your purpose and passion in developing youth based on your own experience of maybe going a different direction, and using entrepreneurship to cross the bridges that really allow you to bet on yourself and create that future you really wanted to see in your community is really inspiring. How do listeners ask you for business advice? Like where do they find you personally? Are you comfortable sharing that information?
Yeah, for sure. So you can always email me directly. It's just chris@pureficoffee.com. I'm also on Instagram. Our company is Purefi Coffee Roasters. But if you want to reach out to me personally, I have a handle on Instagram called Coffee Pastor.
Yeah.
Which is a funny name that was given to me because I'm always preaching about coffee. And then that's pretty much it. I don't check Facebook that much.
Sure.
But if you reach out to me on email or on Instagram, we stay pretty active on Instagram. You can definitely get in touch with me.
All right, Risk Profile. Well, Chris, thanks for sitting down with us. Please like or share the podcast. Go check out Chris's coffee at pureficoffee.com. And we look forward to telling your story at some point. Go be someone.